What is going on YouTube and Facebook? You're joining the UGASports Call-In Show. I'm your host, Paul Maharry, as well as my co-hosts, Jason Butt and Ben Bachmann. We told you guys we were going to talk about the wide receivers / tight ends this week, but as you all know, we might have jinxed it. We said there was 2 weeks of slow football news coming out of Athens, and it didn't make it a third, with that being Amarius Mims and Clay Webb, 2 former 5-stars, hitting the transfer portal. So we decided to pivot and go with the offensive line preview instead tonight, because that's what everybody wants to talk about and talk through. So we are here for your comments on that. If you want to, you can join the conversation by clicking in the description, copy and pasting that StreamYard URL. If you're on your phone, you have to go through Safari to do it, but then you can come on the show with us and have a good time. If you don't want to be on the show, no problem. Put your comments in the comment section. We'll make sure to get to them. Ben, I'm going to toss it to you so myself and Jason can push this out on all the social media platforms. But difficult times for Georgia when you lose 2 5-stars, especially one like the caliber of Mims. What are Georgia fans to do right now?
Well, I'll say first off, Clay Webb, would have been his 4th year at Georgia, and he wasn't cracking the 2 deep on the offensive line. I don't think that one shocks people at all as much as Amarius. So, yeah, Amarius is definitely going to hurt in the sense of depth, because I think he was your number 3 tackle. Ernest Green has came along great. He was listed as a guard coming out of high school this past year, but he's been the 2nd-team left tackle. Amarius has been the 2nd-team right tackle. And I think when it comes to Amarius, I think he wants immediate playing time. I know it's been reported out there that NIL is going to be a big factor between Miami and Florida State for him, but I don't think NIL played as big as the playing time deal did, because let's face it, Broderick Jones was the number 1 player according to Pro Football Focus in the national championship game. He will likely be the starting left tackle this season. Warren McClendon will be the right tackle. You're not going to unseat a guy who's only given up like 1 sack in 2 years as a starter. You're just not going to do that. So Amarius, barring injury, wasn't going to start at either tackle spot. And I think now he's leaving to go and find a place where he can start right away. And I think both Miami and Florida State will provide him that. And I think whoever NIL they say is a factor, so maybe whoever offers more opportunities there is going to get him as their starting left tackle. So that's where that's looking. But I think for the future of Georgia, you have to look at and say the biggest winner in all this, even though Georgia isn't a winner because you want all those talented guys as possible, would be Ernest Green. I think he's guaranteed to be a starting tackle next year down the line. I think it's basically a foregone conclusion because McClendon's going to be gone likely after this year. And if Broderick Jones plays like he did in the national championship game, he could be too. And Ernest is right now probably your number 3 tackle as a freshman. But as Roddy and others have posted, if you guys want to get that information on the scrimmages and practice notes, he's done phenomenal in practice. So I would look at him. I think Micah Morris can play tackle or guard, so I would look at him as well as a player who can move up. Warren Erickson's hurt, so I think Micah Morris is going to have a big opportunity ahead of him. And then Xavier Truss can play tackle or guard. So I think Georgia is still very talented. I think this hurts more the long term than this season unless an injury happened. As long as Georgia's healthy, this wouldn't impact this season as much. But that's always a question mark because health's always been something that's hurt Georgia, especially last year when you look at receivers. So this is definitely a blow to Georgia, but hopefully the development of guys like Green and others can help them for the long term.
I think, Jason, the biggest thing that caught Georgia fans kind of off guard was the fact that we discussed it before the show. Mims was 1 play away from being that next tackle. Ben just said, he's a 3rd tackle. When you're so highly regarded as Mims was 5th overall player in his class, 4th really if you don't count Quinn Ewers reclassifying. But at the same time, you're 1 play away from getting in there. It just seemed like he never really he saw some action, but it never really turned into anything. And then you had these transfer talks start with Mims pretty early on, right after he got to Athens. Almost everybody thought, he's going to come in, he's going to start immediately. Warren McClendon's going to lose his spot. I think you can go back on some shows, and I said, look, Warren McClendon is pretty dang good. He's not going to just lose his spot to a freshman. Broderick Jones waited his turn. Now he's up for that left tackle spot. now you look at this offensive line, you're one play away from really having to start potentially a freshman, at least a redshirt freshman at a tackle position. And last year, Georgia was lucky. They only, and I say only, lost Tate Ratliff for the whole year. But past couple of years, the offensive line, for the most part, has been healthy. If the injury bug were to hit the offensive line like it did the wide receivers last year, that's where this, comes into play for Georgia in a bad way.
I still think they've recruited well, and I think that they still have talent, as Ben alluded to. This is kind of the blessing and the curse when you recruit a bunch of great players, and then especially when you land a 5-star player like Amarius Mims, who at many other schools, if not all except maybe Alabama or even a Clemson or Ohio State, would be starting by now. And therefore, when you recruit that well and you have a guy like you said in Warren McClendon who does not give up his starting job, and then somebody like Amarius Mims wants to leave and go get the playing time, which I don't fault him. I mean, obviously, who wants to sit and wait in this day and age when you have the access to the transfer portal and you can go somewhere else and play right away? So I don't blame him if that's what he wants, if he wants the playing time. But when you recruit that well and you get those kind of talented players, you have to expect that with the transfer portal, they're going to leave if they're unhappy with their playing time situation. But the good news is Georgia has recruited very well over the last 4, 5, 6 years, and therefore they're in good position and with the offensive line. Sure, I think there are some, like you alluded to, anytime you have the injury bug and you go to that second and third unit, there's going to be issues. But when you look at the top 6, 7 linemen without Amarius Mims, I still think Georgia's in a pretty good spot with a lot of experience returning. So I'm not trying to make light of it. I'm agreeing more so with Ben in that, this year it doesn't really matter that much, but down the road it could. Losing a player like Mims is never ideal. It's not a good thing.
Right.
You don't want to lose a guy like him because of the kind of potential he could bring to the line in years to come. It's just they're so deep right now that he wasn't cracking the first unit, and therefore if he wants to go play, let him go play somewhere else.
I've seen this comment a lot. Scotty Bryant says, if kids transfer, they're not in it for the university, selfish. And not to pick on you, Scotty, at all, but I have seen that a lot throughout, message boards, Twitter, things of that nature, folks saying that. Ben, in this day and age with the transfer portal, and like Jason said, it being so open to where you can leave as long he can't transfer to an SEC school. He missed that window. But he can transfer to an ACC school, which it sounds like he will. Florida State or Miami are both heavily involved on him. But is it a selfish thing? Because he's waited, but at the same time, it's like if you look at the depth chart, when you're Mims and you're coming in as that 5-star prospect, the depth chart doesn't favor you too well unless you think you can beat out Broderick Jones or Warren McClendon, and he couldn't. So, what's up with that, Ben?
It depends on the player. It really does depend on the player. There are guys, I look at Marcus Washington, a kid who's committed to Georgia right now, whose father played at Georgia. Second Georgia offer, he committed. He wants to be a Georgia guy. Some guys want to get to the NFL. That's why they choose Georgia and Alabama, because they're going to develop them best for the NFL. And they want to, as much time on the field will give NFL scouts as much as possible to show, this guy can be in the NFL. If you're a 3-year starter, right away as a freshman to a junior, and you were dominant, you're especially along the offensive line, you're going to be a top 10 pick. Why do you think Andrew Thomas was a top 5 pick? He was a 3-year starter who dominated all 3 years of Georgia. So I think that's where Amarius is coming from, to the point of like, hey, I'm going to have 2 years where I'm not going to be on tape very much. Broderick got on the field a lot this year, and he got on the field in the national championship game and dominated Will Anderson when he came in as the left tackle. Like that is a lot. That right there is as impressive tape as it is. So he actually did get to play, and there was expectations Jones was going to play, even though Sawyer was experienced. They didn't want to play a guy game 1 against Clemson among all teams, or I think there was a real chance Jones would have started right away. So I understand. I don't think it's selfish as much as the kid wants to make. If you're looking at trying to make tens of millions of dollars down the line to get to the NFL, sitting for a lot of these kids isn't it? But in other situations, you can sit and eventually be a star. Look at Mac Jones. He didn't start his first 3 years at Alabama. 1 year, his senior year, and he was a first-round draft pick and won a national championship. So there are cases where guys can sit a long time, play one great year, and go to the NFL. but most of the time it doesn't work out. So I don't think it's selfish as much as he's trying to look and say, as much on film as possible will get me the best shot at the NFL. So I don't blame him.
So Martin Arenado, good friend of the show, says, hey, the Clay Webb transfer I totally get, which I do as well. I think Clay, I think he was one of the most dominant camp performers I've ever seen in my life. You can ask Roddy. I mean, we would go to camps and watch this kid just stonewall. And I get it. But how does Bama keep all the 5 stars in waiting, like Martin said? But they kind of do, though, Ben. They've
a lot of guys leave. A lot of guys leave. This notion that every 5-star at Bama. Remember Ayabi Anoba and Antonio Alfano? They were top 5 players. They were similar cases. They were out within 1 year. One of them, I think, left within weeks of being in the program. Like, not every 5-star pans out. Look at Shane Lee. Like, you're going to be great every time, but there's going to be kids who are 5-stars who are going to leave Alabama. They lost like 15 kids to the portal this year, and several were former top 100 players. Drew Sanders was a 5-star who actually got playing time for them. Dallas Turner jumped him. And he was really good for Bama. Now he's at Arkansas. So every school's going to lose players. Is my point.
I would say Alabama, to a lesser extent, Jerome Ford went to Cincinnati. He was not as highly recruited of a back, and he was behind a ton of guys. He left for his future and turned out to be pretty good at Cincinnati and has a chance of being drafted in the NFL. I mean, I think that, I think with Alabama, that thing that's coming from maybe the Georgia fan base, for whatever reason, they're able to keep quarterbacks, and even then they don't. I mean, even then quarterbacks. You look at Hurts, Jalen Hurts for that matter. He ended up having to leave because Tua came in. But I think when you see them replace great quarterback after great quarterback after great quarterback, that then lends to this narrative that Alabama's keeping everybody, but they're not. They have guys to go just like every other major program. It's what happens when you recruit really well. Come back to that point. You recruit really well, guys are going to leave because not everybody can play.
Paul, I have a list of over 10 guys who just left Bama. Remember Jaleel Billingsley was a starter for them? He's at Texas now. He was a starter. Drew Sanders, like I said, was a starter. Shane Lee was a starter briefly as a freshman. He's at USC. Xavier Williams was in there 2 deep at receiver, and then he got hurt, but now he's elsewhere. I remember King McQuita, who Georgia was recruiting. He's gone from them. So Pierce Quick was a top 40 player. He was an offensive lineman, top 40 player from their state. Similar deal with Mims. Mims was obviously a little bit more higher rated, but he never cracked the depth chart. He's now at Georgia Tech. So you're not going to hold all these guys, and not all of them are going to turn out to develop.
I think what's got Georgia fans frustrated, and I don't want to speak for the whole fan base, is Mims was only 1 play away. And not even that. I mean, you have the spring game coming up. That's going to be next weekend, right? And you decide to leave now before the spring game. Is it one of those things where maybe, and I'm just totally speculating here, but maybe Mims has now dropped down to the 3rd team and he doesn't want other teams to see that he's dropped down to the 3rd team. And he's like, no, I'm out of here before spring, dude. You guys are not going to catch me on the 3rd team with these guys. I am a 1st team guy. Not saying that happened, guys. Not saying that happened, but it kind of strikes me as odd because you could have, and I don't think he needs tape, right? Especially for college. These college coaches know what they're getting in Amarius Mims. They're getting a giant human being that is your prototypical left tackle. But you would think that maybe 1 more week, and I think the Georgia coaches tried. I think they tried to keep him around at least 1 more week, see what you can do in that G-Day game. Maybe you can impress the coach. And it always kind of comes down to this too, Jason, is the coaching staff. There's a new head man on that offensive line, Stacy Searles. I think I said his last name right. Did I say his last name right?
Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. But maybe him and Mims clashed. It can happen. It's not unusual to see that happen.
I mean, more than anything, I'll just come back to this. I mean, if he doesn't want to be at Georgia, then so be it. I mean, something clearly has happened. He wasn't getting the playing time. He probably felt he could start. I mean, all these guys who are at this good at this level, they believe they can start and they believe they're the best. If he didn't think he was getting a fair shake, or if he didn't want to wait and didn't want to be here, then so be it. I mean, think about it like this. Yes, he was a former 5-star. And I think sometimes we are guilty of getting wrapped into the former 5-star. If he's a 5-star, we have to keep him. We can't let him go. Well, he wasn't in the discussion to start. It wasn't even like he was pushing for a starting spot. He was squarely a backup at this point, even though he was a former 5-star. So I get that it's annoying for a lot of fans that he's gone. But at the same time, if he doesn't want to be here, then that opens up space for somebody who does want to be here. And it's not like Georgia hasn't recruited well at this position, to where they don't have capable guys, great guys for that matter, who want to be here and who can eventually excel down the road.
Brian Williamson over on Facebook, he comments, says, clearly Mims is not one play away. He had fallen down the depth chart behind Xavier Truss and Devin Willock. Good luck.
Paul, he did have a concussion recently. So he did miss some time. He did have a concussion recently. So that could also led to it, which sometimes it's like if you get – I do understand some fans' gripes in the sense of if a guy gets injured and he still can compete to get back and he goes, oh, well, I've fallen down my reps a bit. Well, yeah, you have to nurse yourself back from injury, and other guys have stepped up. So, like, I do understand when fans gripe about that, when a guy just leaves immediately, because when you're hurt, like, if you're healthy, it was a different situation. You physically couldn't play, and these guys just played super well. So I get that, because his injury definitely impacted this, I feel like.
Is the timing off for you guys, or is it just me? Like, he's been here a little while now, and I guess it's one of those things where it's just he saw the writing on the wall. He didn't want to go through G-Day. It just seems the timing's off for me. He has until May 1st. Yeah, he's got until May 1st. It just, the timing seems weird to me. To either one of you, or is it just me?
A little bit. I'd say a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting, I would say. Who knows? I mean, if he ran out there with the third team, I totally think your hypothetical there would have hold a whole lot of weight. Obviously, we won't know. He's gone. So
right.
That's,
I mean, it very well, Brian very well be, correct. Along with the concussion, he might have moved down to third string and was like, dude, you got me all the way screwed up. If you think I'm running out of here in the third team as Amarius Mims, like I was the 5th overall player in the nation, then you're going to put me on the third string? No, sir. So to recap, guys, if you want to get on the show with us, go into the description and copy and paste that StreamYard link over to Safari on your iPhones. If you're on an Android, I think it works just through your normal browser. If you're on your computer, it works as well through your normal browser. We'd love to have you on so we can get a fan's approach on this whole Amarius Mims, Clay Webb leaving. I do want to dive a little bit deeper. We've been doing this, and this is kind of our series for the offseason, guys, diving into each position, right? And I'm going to name off the rest of the offensive linemen that are still at Georgia. Remember, now it looks like, I want to say, do not quote me, was Georgia at 92, Ben, and now they're at 90, or were they at 94 and they're at 92 now? Our scholarship distribution page,
I think they're at least at like 90. I think it might be 90.
Our scholarship distribution page has 92. It might be 90 now. It might have not updated, but we do have Amarius Mims and Clay Webb taken out. So Georgia still has to hit a hard number of 85. So these are not going to be the last. And then I'm sure Kirby wants a couple spots to potentially go transfer portal hunting himself. He hasn't been able to do so this year, which he's done, I want to say, every year since he's been here, starting with Mo Sims. And then he's had at least one transfer come in every year. So here's your offensive line, guys. Warren Erickson, who is going to be a 5th-year senior. Warren McClendon, Xavier Truss. You've got redshirt Tate Ratledge, Cedric Van Pran, Broderick Jones, Austin Blasky, Devin Willett, Cameron Kinney, Chad Lindbergh, Dylan Fairchild, Michael Morrison, Jared Wilson, who all redshirted last year. And then you've got the newcomers coming in, guys, Griffin Scroggs, Drew Bobo, Alu Ba, Ernest Green, and Jacob Hood. Again, that's a lot of guys. We talked about this.
Cameron Kinney. Man, I was like, oh, what? I forgot he was on the roster. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. Like, I just ran through, excuse me here while I talk, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16, 15, 18 offensive linemen still on the roster. So you have 3.5 deep on the O-line. Might be some more attrition there, but as we move forward, what's that offensive line going to look like, Jason? Cedric Van Pran's obviously going to be probably back at center, I would suppose. Tate Ratledge, I'm sure, is going to try to get his guard spot back. You're going to think Warren Erickson's going to be at right tackle. You're going to think
you said you meant.
Or McClendon, Warren McClendon. Warren Erickson's going to be fighting for a guard spot, I would think. and then you're going to have Broderick Jones in there as well. Where are we at now that Mims and Webb have both left? You only have one 5-star left on the offensive line, unfortunately, for Georgia fans. But seems like you've got some really good 4-stars left. Where does Georgia stand now?
Yeah, I mean, once you get to college, it's can you play, can you not play? So it's, the 5-star stuff is cool. The more 5-stars you bring in, the better. Usually the odds show that you're going to get better players, but who can play, that determines itself out in practice and in games. Tackles are set, center is set, guard, and Devin Willock. He's kind of had a lot of buzz about him this spring. So I'm interested to see how he looks at G-Day for that matter. And Xavier Truss moving, playing some guard. I'm interested to see how he looks there, as Tate Ratledge battles back. And so I think when you got those 4 right there, Truss, Willock, Ratledge, and Erickson, I think how that shakes itself out is going to be the biggest storyline on the offensive line moving forward. So I think you're set at tackle and center. So that's really just those other 2 interior spots.
Then I want to say Devin Willock. Yeah, Devin Willock was an offensive tackle. Mm-hmm. And Xavier Truss was also offensive tackle. So you could have 4 offensive tackles and then a center. Technically, if you want to look at it from their high school where they played at, 4 offensive tackles on that line with Cedric Van Pran Granger at center.
Micah Morris coming out was an offensive tackle. He's working at guard. So yeah,
I think we could go down this list.
Was listed at tackle. He's a guard.
Exactly.
So I think the big question mark is Tate Ratledge's health, because I think if he's healthy, I think he's going to lock up one of the guard spots. He was last summer. People don't remember. Last spring and summer, he was the offensive lineman who had the most buzz, and that's why he was a starter game 1 against Clemson, and he got hurt within 3 plays. If he's anywhere in form when he's healthy, he will be one of the starters, my opinion. As good as Erickson, as long an experience as Erickson is, and Truss getting some playing time last year, I think he would beat both of them out. I really do. I think the guy who's under a lot of pressure to start now is Micah Morris. I really believe Micah Morris, this is his chance with Erickson out. And with Truss, he's still competing with him, and Tate's got to work himself back to health. Micah Morris, I think it's going to be interesting because I think Jones is locked up at left tackle, McClendon at right tackle, and Van Pran at center. I agree with Jason on that. So when you look at guard, there's a lot of guys. And we even talk about like Chad Lindbergh, like some of the guys like that who are they going to compete? Dylan Fairchild's a really talented lineman. And I remember ever since he's been at Georgia, everyone's been talking about Jared Wilson. Jared Wilson, I always feel like every time it's something always wowing people. He's wowing people. So Georgia, at least from what we've heard, has had a lot of young offensive linemen show a lot of big signs. It's just who's going to step up? Is it going to be a guy like Truss is finally with a move to guard, going to finally take that next step? Or is a young guy like Micah Morris going to seize this opportunity and be like how he was rated and be that next big thing at left guard? So I'm really curious about it, but I think tackle and center, you're set. At guard, a lot of it's dependent on health, really, because Erickson and Tate, if you put a gun to my head and said who would start next year, if they were healthy, I would have said them, but they're not right now. So that's what's tricky about it.
And it seems to be the case for, Georgia at a lot of positions. We're going to dive into the wide receivers and tight ends this episode, and there's a lot of injury bugs, floating around still over there, it seems like. And offensive line now, for whatever reason, has caught the injury bug. I'm curious moving forward with this offensive line, with the new offensive line coach, what their type of style will look like. If you're going with 4 big guys, 4 tackles, those are monsters. So I'm curious to see how quick they're going to be able to move. Is that going to affect how Stetson plays? Is he going to roll out more? I'm very curious to see how they come out on G-Day. And sure, G-Day is mainly for the fans, but you do get to see a little bit of something at G-Day. We saw A.D. Mitchell go crazy at G-Day, and we saw how good he was last year, Ben.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I teed it up for you, and you didn't even.
I knew you were trolling him.
Yeah, I was talking about how good A.D. Mitchell was in the
spring game. You're not getting any credit for that. You literally said you picked him because there was already buzz about A.D. Mitchell, and then Paul's like, well, more people are talking about Brock, so I'm just going to go with A.D. He did that technique, so I'm not going to – don't buy Paul's crap. He did a simple tactic. It's nothing. But I think, you know what, this year I'm buying it because you haven't given me my note yet. I was money on my recruiting and team predictions.
You were.
Our episode, I was money. And the last prediction was Ernest Green was going to end up at Georgia, correct? Ernest Green, if he gets in this year, he's going to ball out. So he's the guy I'm looking forward to watch at G-Day because I think he's going to be a star at Georgia. Speaking
of Ernest Green, you also have 4 other offensive linemen coming in with him in this freshman class. You've got Jacob Hood, who I don't think a lot of people know. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know about Jacob Hood, Ben. Where is he from?
Tennessee. He's out of Tennessee. He's 6'8", 350.
Wow.
That is a large human. He's bigger than Jordan Davis.
And then I don't want to mispronounce his first name. Aluba?
Yeah, you got it. IMG. So he played IMG with a lot of great players. I mean, he played against James Smith and Bear Alexander. He went against every day in practice. So in high school,
Jason covered this guy's dad for many a years when he was in Athens. Drew Bobo, a name many know. And then Griffin Scroggs out of Grayson projects to maybe be a center type. So, it's just going to be interesting to see how this offensive line shakes up. I know Mims was the big, I think, next piece that Georgia wanted to see. And I think everybody had in their mind Mims at one tackle position, Broderick Jones at the other, and then you got 3 just road grinders in the middle and everything works itself out. Sometimes guys like Warren McClendon don't lose their spot, and it doesn't work out that way. I'm curious to see, though, what happens moving forward in terms of how that second unit looks, and especially how that first unit guard and both guards play, really. With Clay Webb leaving, where do you think he ends up, guys?
I think maybe at an Air Force, place like that, a Naval Academy, because I think he's interested in going in the Army and stuff like that, and him going to play for one of those places, and he probably would start there right away too. So I think that would make a lot of sense.
Maybe, who knows? Maybe this is the end.
Yeah.
Sometimes
we have heard that, right? We've heard that a couple times about him.
Like a year ago, we heard that. That was a possibility.
Right. Anthony White says Mims is gone. He wants to move up the depth chart. All the talent in front isn't letting him. Yeah, that's kind of what we've been saying this whole show, Mr. White, is that Warren McClendon wasn't giving that spot up, and Broderick Jones looked damn good in the national championship game. He wasn't giving that other spot up either. So, it sucks for Mims. It sucks for Georgia fans, but it's also one of those things where you don't ever not take a commitment. You're going to tell the kid, hey, you can come in and battle, and look like he battled. He just couldn't break it. I'm curious to see how good he'll be if he goes to a Miami or an FSU. I'm sure wherever he goes, and I'll throw this to both of you guys, wherever he ends up, he's going to start right away, right? He's not going to transfer and try to battle for another position. He's going to almost want to get a guaranteed, yes, you're our left tackle, yes, you're our right tackle.
That's hard to get, especially at the Division I level. Quite honestly, I know that's probably what he wants or he wants to hear, and I'm sure the coaches will go to a certain line. I would find it very hard to believe if any coach says you come here, you're starting point blank. That said, I'm sure he's got the talent. Like I said earlier, there's very few places where he wouldn't be starting right now. Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, places like that. Florida State, Miami. I haven't studied their depth charts or anything, but I would find it hard to believe he couldn't crack the first team at a place like that right now.
Ben, if you're Florida State or Miami, you're in a dogfight to get Amarius Mims, who could potentially be a first-round pick, but he couldn't beat out the guys at Georgia. Are you offering this kid, automatic, hey, you're coming in and starting?
Well, how good is your offensive lineman? Because from what I've seen from Florida State, they should 100%. Florida State's offensive line has been atrocious.
Yeah, they've been really bad.
Miami hasn't been great either. I remember they started Zion Nelson. I could be wrong on this. Was a 2 or 3 star offensive lineman. They started him as a freshman. In high school, he was 250. And they started him, I believe, right away his freshman year at one of the tackle spots. So Miami has had struggles, and Cristobal is built up in the offensive line. When he was at Oregon, and he was an O-line coach. So if Cristobal is like, okay, my O-line here is not looking good, I got to put a kid with this talent. Now, I know there's been a lot of question marks about him with like work ethic and all that people have thrown out. Throw all that away. Talent, he's going to be the most talented guy on either of those offensive lines. So I'd come in and say, yeah, you can compete and be the starter here. You have a chance to compete. I would never guarantee anything to anyone because truth is, suppose he shows up and he isn't like that. Suppose he's not as advertised. But I would say, yeah, you can compete to be the starter right away. You can compete, not I'm going to hand it to you.
It's also interesting, you know, with guys like Mims, if we're going to see, it seems like the portal for the longest time has been very QB centric, if that makes sense. It has revolved around quarterbacks because quarterbacks can change your program the fastest. Spencer Rattler to South Carolina, you know, that's a quick transition. Caleb Williams to USC, you saw who followed. You know, you build around Justin Fields to Ohio State. You bring in a quarterback. Next thing you know, your team has got significantly better. What is the next position behind quarter? Is it offensive tackle? I'm just asking. Is it offensive tackle? Like if you're ranking, I guess, transfer portal position groups, right? Quarterback is definitely number one. They're changing your program no matter what. Is the offensive tackle second? Like, how would you rate that, guys?
There's never been a big-time offensive lineman transfer to another school and be a first-round pick that I know of. Maybe if Jason knows of some. Remember Cade Mays, everyone's favorite Georgia offensive lineman, Cade Mays?
Yeah.
He leaves. I remember going into that year, he was a projected late first, early second-round pick in every mock draft. He was a consensus top 50 player. He leaves. First year at Tennessee, he was projected late round pick to undrafted. Now this year he improved his stock a little bit, but he's projected a mid-round pick. At Georgia, he was a late first, early second. Okay. So I look at him and say he was a big-time transfer already when people said, okay, he's going to be an NFL star. Transferred and his stock plummeted. Okay. Yep. So I don't remember any offensive linemen. You look at every offensive lineman Georgia said, none of them have been transfers. Bama, all their offensive linemen, they were there from their freshman year. I don't know of any offensive linemen.
Landon Dickerson at Bama.
Oh, yeah, but here's the difference. With Landon Dickerson, he was really good at Florida State.
Correct.
When he transferred. His deal was Florida State was changing coaching staffs.
Florida State was trash, and he left.
And they were bad. So they were changing coaching staffs, and they were bad. And that's why he ended up at Alabama. His wasn't a deal of playing time because he was a star for them. He was I think he was all ACC. Yeah, so he was a different case. But if you take him out of it, and he was also a second-round pick, I can't think of any star offensive linemen that have transferred and been first-rounders. And that's not a shot at Amarius. I think he has the talent to do that. But I'm just saying I've never seen one.
Yeah, and I would say that I wouldn't say offensive line, but I would say edge rusher or some sort of pass rusher. Jermaine Johnson comes to mind right now, just going from Florida State.
Yeah.
How he improved his draft stock considerably. So, I mean, obviously, I think with the offensive line, I don't know. We've been talking like for me. If a player doesn't want to be somewhere, they want to transfer. They have the ability to transfer. I don't personally care. I know there's going to be people, the traditionalists that will disagree with that, and that's fine. But I will say this: that offensive line, it almost seems like if you have the talent and you do stay with the program, your chances are, because more than likely you're going to play. It's a position that's going to deal with so many injuries, in most seasons. You're going to eventually play, get the tape. Going from one spot to another spot does seem harder, and you never know what can happen. The variables with coaching staffs and all that turnover as well. So, in terms of being able to step in and be a game changer, you don't really see that at the offensive line position and the transfer, at least through the transfer portal. At least we haven't yet, like we have at quarterback or at edge rusher. So I would put edge rusher right behind quarterback.
I like the edge rusher pick. I wasn't even thinking that. And then you brought Jermaine Johnson. There's been a lot of players that are transferred from Georgia. But like Ben said, Jermaine was a little bit of playing time. He knew he was going to be the FSU's number one guy. But he also was playing at Georgia. Cade Mays was playing at Georgia and transferred. Amarius Mims has not played at Georgia and is transferring. So, yes, it hurts on paper. You're losing a five-star player. You're losing this mammoth of a man. 6'7", 300, and God knows how many pounds now. But at the same time, he hasn't cracked that depth chart yet, like other guys that have left Georgia, and you've been all right. You won a national championship last year without Jermaine Johnson, which could you imagine with everything that happened with Adam Anderson? Yes, Robert Beal stepped up in a big way, but if you had Jermaine Johnson right there, that would have been quite wild. If Cade Mays would have stayed and Tate Ratledge would have gone down, you might not even have seen Tate Ratledge because Cade Mays would have started. Offensive line would have been that much better, but Kirby has worked around this. So I guess the next question, and we bring this up on every position, and I like doing this because it kind of gives an idea of what's next for Georgia. They've got 5 true freshman offensive linemen, Jason. They've got 3 redshirt freshman offensive line. They've got 6 redshirt sophomores. They've got a true sophomore. So they're very heavy on the young guys. Then you just have McClendon, Truss, and Erickson, who are going to be upperclassmen. Is this a position where Kirby Smart potentially goes into the transfer portal? And again, this might be a stupid question, but we're going to ask it for every position group as we go through the offseason because I like the topic. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's a stupid question, but
thank you, Jason.
I don't think they do it. I mean, they have what was the number we said? 18?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14,
18 or
18.
And and these are all legit recruits. I mean, there's no reason to go to the transfer portal. You don't need to, not to mention you have 90 scholarship players. So you still got to cut 5 or not
right.
You got to push 5 out the door somehow.
Yeah.
One way or the other. So there's no. I don't see that at all.
Paul, Georgia's second team D line or O line is better than Florida's starting O line. And listen, that's not take that's real. You take it, Micah Morris, Ernest Green, somebody with the Buzz Willock and guys like that they're better than Florida's starting O line, talent wise and everything. You take that all day.
Ben, don't shoot the messenger, okay? I'm going to ask that question for every position, okay? We've got to go back to wide receivers, tight ends at one show, and then we're going to go to defense. I'm going to ask it 3 or 4 more times. So just don't shoot the messenger. I'm just asking the question.
It's not a stupid
question. Other positions I could see it that we're going to talk to in the future.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe we can set up.
If you take tight end out, if we're lumping them together and you take tight end out, yes, I can see receiver and any position on defense is a possibility.
Ben, you're giving away the spoilers. We're supposed to spoil that. You're not just supposed to say that. That keeps the people coming back.
I don't think that's the main reason they're clicking on that video. I don't think so. Oh, is a transfer a possibility? Oh, I got to make sure to check out the video for that. No, Paul, what the hell, man?
That could be it, Ben. That's what might drive this viewership up. Is they want to know.
If I drop a nugget, who's transferring to Georgia? I'll be honest, I don't know. But maybe if something comes up, maybe I'll drop a nugget on that. But
hey, Justin Temple says he's a Georgia fan, guys. We appreciate you watching, Justin Temple. And Keith agrees with us. He says not for O-line. He doesn't think a transfer is necessary for the offensive line, which we're all in agreement there. But I do want to ask the question on each position. Anything else on this offensive line, guys, before we kind of preview G-Day? Are we good here?
Yeah, again, I want to go back to something you had just said about Amarius Mims. I'm going to read it. I want to hammer this home again. He wasn't playing, and he wasn't going to play this year.
Yeah.
I know it's tough. It's tough when you deal with a former 5-star, but you got to let him go. He's one that you let go. Yeah. Not every 5-star works out. Jacob Eason didn't work out at Georgia.
I really wish Jacob Eason would have, though, man.
Yeah,
I think he could have been like that dude. I really do.
No, he was never going to be that dude.
No, you don't.
I'm not hating, but no, he was too inaccurate that first year. He was never going to improve that, and he never did.
I just loved like the 70-yard bombs. I don't know.
Yeah, I know that's exciting, but yeah, no, it's unfortunate. He could have, it's not that he wasn't talented enough to play at Georgia. They just have great players at Georgia, and so you let him go. 18 offensive linemen who have been recruited, scouted by this coaching staff are still on the roster. They deserve a lot of love from this fan base. You let Amarius go, do his thing elsewhere, and you hope that these guys, this deep offensive line, continues to produce at this level.
Ben, wrapping up O-line, you got anything else?
I really got nothing else other than, like I said, I always make a bold prediction about a freshman. Maybe not this season, but in the long term, I think Ernest Green could be an All-American for Georgia. I'll just say that.
Oh, man, predicting the that's a bold prediction, man.
That'll get people watching. People want to see that comment. Future All-American or possibility of taking a portal at this position, I think.
That's it, huh? So, guys, G-Day is going to be Saturday. We're going to have a wrap-up show Sunday night. That should be fun. What are you looking forward to the most? And we can talk about other things in the offensive line now. I am allowing you both to disperse into the other position groups, if you will. What are you looking forward to the most during G-Day? Ben, I'll start with you because Jason had a puzzled look on his face that he might not have an answer right away. So, Ben, I'm going to put you on the spot first.
I do. I was looking at my list, but we'll let Ben go.
I'm going to go with the one I don't think Georgia fans care about at all, and that's how Brock Vandergriff and those guys look. I don't think Georgia fans really care about that. So I'll go with how the other quarterbacks look. But to not take the easy answer, I'm curious about the Nylon Moore set, because things have been good about him and people have talked about, what this freshman receiver class is. I'm interested because apparently he's looked really good. I'm interested to see how he looks at G-Day and Arik Gilbert. I'm interested to see how the pass catchers look and what the inside linebacker rotation is. I know some guys are hurt.
Literally one answer, Ben. There's three of us.
Okay, that's it. I gave offense and I gave defense because I threw the quarterbacks.
I was going to say, you're taking all the answers. Jason, go ahead.
Hey, man. All right.
I mean, damn, just run through the whole roster next time.
I was going to say,
looking forward to the D-line, the defensive backs. I'm looking forward to the kicking game a little bit, the new punter as well.
I am looking forward to that.
Backup long snapper.
Yeah. I mean, damn, give us something on the water
boy.
The Thunder from down under, man. I'm excited about him.
I am. Yeah, I am looking forward to
it. Because, I mean, Camarda, man, he was a weapon his last few years. So that is a big loss, and so they do need to replace him. I'll be interested to see how he looks. But it was my number one. The number one thing I'm looking forward to is, and which it doesn't matter at the end of the day because it's a practice game. But last year it was AD Mitchell who broke out, but with Brock Bowers not getting those first team reps, not in there, I want to see the progression. I want to see who Stetson Bennett kind of leans on. It's just top couple of guys. I expect it to be AD Mitchell, and I would love to see if it's Arik Gilbert. Hey, maybe it's more set too. I don't know. I'm really interested to see who steps up, who's the surprise in that group, somebody that we're not really thinking or looking at, at the present time. So that's really it. And then Ben said everything else. I mean, inside linebacker, secondary. I mean, I'm interested to see how those are. And really, it's all about this game. To me, is all about seeing guys kind of fly around, get a feel for the game. The skill position guys are really what you're looking at because they're not doing it. It's all vanilla. It's all base stuff. They're not going to show anything. So it's exciting, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't give any insight. It's more so just, hey, this guy looks good. Can this guy? Sometimes you can see it. I think last year Bowers and Mitchell, you were like, okay, those guys have something that could be put to use during the season. So. Maybe we'll get a couple of those guys that stand out kind of unexpectedly, on Saturday.
What about you, Paul?
Huh?
What about you? Come on,
yeah,
Paul.
Thank you, Ben.
What you got this year? Let's see.
Yeah, I am looking forward to. So you have Ringo on one side. Who is going to be the other cornerback? I think if you ask 5 people inside Buttsmeer, they probably give you 3 different answers. So I'm curious to know who is going to fight for that second cornerback spot. Why are you looking
what are the 3 different answers, Paul? I think there's only 2, but what are the 3?
You tell me your 2, and then maybe I'll add the third.
Oh, Laster and Green.
That's all you got, huh?
On the outside corner? No, Star doesn't count. Yeah, Star does not count.
So you don't think Javon Bullard has a shot?
No.
Okay. You don't think Slime Singletary coming in as a true freshman has a shot?
He wasn't an early enrollee, so
not a G-Day.
I know. Yeah, he's not going to be.
Dalen Everett may pique my interest a tad, but I'm going Laster and Green. I was high on Green, I think, last year, right? So I have to ride with him, even though I think it's going to be Laster. If you had to, guess, I might be wrong.
It always seemed like Lassiter in the special teams play last year. It always seemed like he was around, and then in mop up duty, it seemed like he was kind of flying around and looking athletic out there. So I'm interested to see him too.
No Chaz Chambliss talk. No Chaz Chambliss. Yeah.
No, I mean Chaz showed us what he could do last year. I don't think he's
going to hit in the Tennessee game. What game? Oh no, it was the playoff where he got targeting, where he just clocked the guy.
He killed that guy.
I don't know about Chaz Chambliss. To me, I think is just fine where he's at. I don't expect much. I don't expect less. I think he's just a lunchbox type of guy. Curious though, what your second team? I know I'm staying on the secondary. Your second team secondary looks like because a couple injuries last year, a couple guys that didn't live up to expectations, et cetera, et cetera. You ended up with Dan Jackson back there playing a lot. Wonder if he plays a lot this year. I want to see Tyke Smith. I was big on him last year, but I want to see him actually get out there. I think for Georgia, bringing him back was really big. Being able to get him back. I know it would have been weird with him transferring again, would have had to graduate, et cetera, but him coming back and really staying with the program. And then he put out a tweet, I want to say, not too long ago saying, best decision of my life. He retweeted when he committed to Georgia. So I want to see Tyke Smith out there finally healthy and see what he can do. So that's my take, just as the guy who hosts the call-in show, Ben. No big deal.
Right? The host. Oh, well, we got you now. Paul, the host.
But the thing is, they come to you and they come to Jason for your analysis. I'm really just the guy that just moves the show forward, Don't mind me. Don't mind.
I like
Paul did tell me before me and Jason are the stars of the show, so he's a waste up there. Just cut him off whenever.
Yeah. I just wanted to point out Keith Simmons said Jackson Meeks, and I like that.
Yeah, Jackson. And you know what's shocking is that I thought Paul was going to bring up the D line because Paul's already asked about the D line in our first two shows back. Bring him up.
I am a little concerned about the D line, but I wasn't going to go there for a spring game. No, I want to see who the second corner is. But D line, it's a little shaky. It's a little uneasy. I don't
know if the Stackhouse falls out.
Yeah.
I don't know. You got a lot of guys besides Jalen Carter, Tramel Walther, Bill Norton, Stackhouse, Mitchell, Brinson, Logue.
Logue, yeah, you got Logue. Jalen Carter, how's he going to look? Oh, well, we already know that.
I think he's going to be all right. But you've got to have some guys step up around him, man. I'm not kidding.
They should have him catch some passes. I forget what team it was. I think, what was it, Tennessee, his freshman year? Caught a touchdown. We'll see him use him at tight end. Hey, they need a tight end, Jalen Carter.
Yeah, because you're going to play your best defensive player on because you don't have enough.
He's a freak. He's a freak ball.
You don't have enough tight ends as it is.
They do have a lot of.
Well, he's just a mammoth and just throw him the ball.
Goal line.
That's what they say about Darnell Washington. No, they don't throw him the ball.
He keeps getting hurt.
Yeah, he's hurt. Suppose he's not out there. You need a mammoth.
That's the guy, man. That's of all the players on that offense, Darnell Washington is the one that I am the most excited about, have been, and he just keeps getting hurt, and it's sad.
Yeah,
they should use him in the red zone more.
Yes.
That's one thing they should do. Like other than that, I understand why sometimes his usage is low, but in the red zone they have to use him. Yeah. You just have to.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I'm curious to see if he stays around. Hopefully he does. There's been some talk about him entering the transfer portal, et cetera, but we're not on that position yet, Ben. Don't move too fast, my friend. Not so fast.
I didn't talk about my money receiver yet, so his name has not been brought up.
Oh, I like that.
There you go. I'm doing it.
There's the teaser. Yeah.
There's the teaser. Good job, Ben. Good job. It's only taken 3 years for you to learn that. No worries, man. Hey, guys, we appreciate you joining us for this episode of the UGASports Call-In Show. I forgot to ask. Jason, Ben, you have anything else you want to add before I wrap this up?
No.
No. So, guys, we appreciate you. If you missed any of the show, if you were a little bit late, no worries. You can rewatch it on YouTube, or you can head over to UGA Sports Podcast. We have it on the website as well, UGAsports.com. And, crazy week. Couldn't go 3 for 3, Jason, in terms of 3 solid, no news weeks out of the University of Georgia. We didn't even touch on Warren Brinson and his arrest for a splatter gun, which is wild. We didn't even go. I don't even want to go there. To be honest with you,
we said the first week. We said this is weird. This is Georgia.
We did.
Weird stuff happens, and then here we go. I mean, it was a matter. It was like playing catch up for the last 2 weeks.
And when bad news usually happens, something happens in like recruiting or somewhere where they get somebody. So who
knows?
That's
true.
That is true.
Now
Kirby is a what do they call it? Like a risk mitigator or something like they have those
control kind of.
Yeah.
You get a bunch of negative press, and you turn that around. You turn the news cycle around quick.
It was like someone got hurt. I think it was like Tyke Smith. Literally the next day, Jaheim Singletary commits to Georgia. Oh, who cares about Tyke Smith?
Yeah. So there you go. It might happen soon. You never know. If you want to talk a little bit more about recruiting, we've got Rumors versus Facts on Monday nights here on this same YouTube channel. And if you want to hear Coach Don and Rain Ballon with Dane Young and Ryan Nabulsi, They are live Tuesdays at noon for the UGA Sports Podcast, and they give some great information out. If you listen, if you read between the lines on what Coach Donovan's saying, you will be the smartest guy at the water cooler. I promise you that. That's where Ben gets all his information from, and then he just regurgitates it right back here on this show. So it's great. It's like a little mini coach. But no, guys, we appreciate you so much. If you're not already, hit that follow button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the little bell so you get notifications when we're live so you can come in here and talk with us. Hopefully next week we'll have a call-in because this is the call-in show. We appreciate you guys watching and putting comments in. We'd love to see your face so we can not see Ben's as big on the screen. That would help out. For Jason Butt and Ben Bachmann.
And the host.
I'm your host.
Paul Maharry, the host.
Yeah, man. We appreciate you guys so much. And we will see you next Sunday. We'll be wrapping up G-Day, as that is next Saturday. We'll be talking G-Day next Sunday. Hope you guys have a great week, and we will talk to you then.